Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Workplace Theater Podcast. My name is Chris Thomas, Chief Connector at Grow Exponential Consulting. Today, we're thrilled to have Miss Kimberly Hall. We just got done with a business roundtable that was amazing. So thank you for that, Kimberly.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Kimberly, tell the viewers a little bit more about yourself and the work that you do.
Okay. So I own the Alternative Board for West Suburban Chicago, which is an organization that helps business owners improve their businesses, grow their business, increase efficiency, and make better decisions, all to ensure that they achieve all of their success. I am also the owner of Quantum Phoenix LLC, which is an HR consulting firm.
Awesome. So let's start with something fun, just to loosen it up a little bit.
All right.
So what is a book or a podcast or a movie that, or an idea, right, that's inspired your leadership?
Oh, wow. A book, a podcast, or a movie. This is completely away from my industry and focus, but it absolutely inspired me, and that's the movie Hidden Figures. And the reason why, it's just a culmination of three individuals and how they overcame obstacles to not only achieve their goals, but to have an impact in their community, but in the world abroad. And I think everybody's familiar with the storyline. This is the individuals who helped NASA achieve its goals, but probably didn't get the recognition they deserved. And it's amazing to me how so many years later we find out about them. And for me, it's just an example of what we call quiet leadership. Individuals that in the moment, a lot of it was probably for survival, but in the moment led people, led an organization by their character, by their behaviors, to improve society and to further the goals of the country. So I would say that one is probably the biggest one that really resonates with me. And it demonstrates different ways that we can lead in the face of adversity.
So kind of leading from behind the scenes sometimes.
Exactly. Not everybody has to be in front. You can still be a leader and be, behind the scenes.
I love it. Mm-hmm. So with kind of the ever-changing landscape of the workplace now, a lot of changes, political changes, DE&I, quote unquote, phasing out, things like that.
Yeah.
What do you feel is one of the biggest challenges in building a great team today?
The first thing that comes to mind is balancing the in-person versus remote environment. How do you do that to meet the expectations of work-life balance for your employees and still achieve the performance levels that your organization has set? And at the same time, fostering, establishing, and maintaining the right relationships and partnerships, whether it's internal or external stakeholders. And so I think even post-pandemic, a couple of years out, we're still grappling with that. It impacts culture. And so sometimes there's organizations and leaders that don't even want to discuss it. Yeah. There are some that are in the forefront, leading with best practices. There are those that say we are a customer-centric organization. We're customer-oriented. Therefore, whatever environment our customers have established, we're going to establish the same. So I think we're still working through that.
Yeah.
I would argue that leaders should find the best way to not only maintain the right culture, but also maintain the right level of engagement of your teams. Listen, ask for input on what works. There's a level of trust that we need to exhibit. There's also a level of accountability and a standard of accountability that we need to set in terms of performance. Don't be afraid to have a conversation if someone's been remote and they're not performing. So it's a very complex situation that there's different levers you have to pull on to make it successful. But I think we're going to navigate and find the right thing. It's going to look different from company to company, organization to organization. But I think at the end of the day, if we focus on what's right for the business and what's right for the teams, you'll be able to maintain that team success.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned kind of the hybrid approach that a lot of businesses have pivoted to. I just saw something on LinkedIn that Chase is making all their employees go back in person. And so I wonder how that's going to kind of trickle down to some of these other entities.
Right.
So it'd be interesting.
The biggest ripple effect was organizations like at one point with Amazon or Zoom for that matter. The key differentiator for us to navigate the pandemic was requiring their employees to come back. I am curious how things are going today and what the expectation is in 2025. But as those organizations continue to pivot, it's going to give more data for others to determine what's best for them.
Absolutely. So with some organizations kind of going and staying with the hybrid model, some coming back in person, how do we keep people connected and engaged?
Communication, feedback, meeting people where they are. It's still trying to set the philosophy I have is you take the same approach, the outcomes may be different. And even at a manager level, setting the right principle and standards for your entire team, each individual is going to operate differently. It's about transparency, it's about communication, it's about accountability. There's going to be some difficult roads ahead, but if you set the same principle and be consistent with that principle, and then address how that's working for each of your employees, it's going to take time, but that's the effort that you have to take.
Meet everyone where they are.
Meet everyone where they are. Absolutely.
Absolutely. In terms of like principles that you use to guide you, are there any leadership principles or practices that you use that have had a big impact on your career or any teams that you've led?
This is going to be, it's funny. This comes from my mother and it's just a real kitschy kind of phrase. But I think it speaks to things around discipline and preparation. And her famous line to me all the time was, don't give them the stick to beat you with. And what that means is always be ready, always be prepared, be focused and disciplined, because at the end of the day, you own and control how you show up.
Right.
And if you're not, you're giving people the opportunity to not give you the space to show what you can bring to the table. And so it does sound funny, but it resonates and it plays out in a number of different ways. And so it's how do you prioritize? How do you do the right homework and the right research? You know, the phrase, there's no substitute for preparation. And that is very true. And if you don't do all of those things, you're the one that's held accountable for missing the mark. And so why give people an opportunity to walk away from you? Right. And so that's what resonates for me.
Show up.
Show up.
Your best self.
Right.
Right. Prepared.
Exactly.
Love it. Love it. So if there is one shift or principle that you believe leaders should focus on in 2025, would it be that one, or is there another one that comes to mind?
The word that comes to mind right now in 2025 is balance. You know, we spent the pandemic and a good part of the post-pandemic trying to focus on well-being, and we absolutely should still focus on it. I think there are some organizations that still have some room to grow. But we're also faced with inflation, we're faced with hitting targets, we're faced with making some tough decisions in order for, you know, business solvency. And so what is the right balance across all of that? And it may look different from company to company, individual to team. So I think leaders need to not only find the right work-life balance, but be the ones that are setting the example. We still have a lot of workaholics out there that are demonstrating a difficult behavior, and they're, without saying anything, leaving this impression on their teams that they should do the same. And so how do we still approach business with common sense principles and strike the right balance? And I think that's the first thing that comes to mind, especially for 2025, because otherwise you're going to be pulled in so many different directions.
Balance. Yeah, I think that transfers into all of life, right? Personal,
absolutely.
Professional, family. Like, how do you strike that right balance and not feel overwhelmed?
Right.
You know?
Right. So. And how do you give permission to employees to know this is going to be here? but I need you to put your best foot forward and put every effort into it. But I also need you to take care of yourself, and you have to walk the talk.
Love it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been very, very insightful.
Thank you.
Is there any advice that you want to leave leaders with?
I would say no matter where you are, whether you're just starting out leading organization, leading a team, you're leading yourself as well, always continuously learn. Just because you've put in 20 years in an organization, it could be 1 year 20 times. How much have you ensured that you stay curious? And how have you ensured that you continue to learn from a variety of different outlets and avenues? You could learn from your team, you could learn from your peers, you could learn from mentors and sponsors, but always keep that curiosity of learning going and always make an effort to challenge your skills no matter what level you've achieved.
So not just financial capital, but intellectual capital.
Absolutely. Intellectual capital.
That's
absolutely.
Love it. Love it. Where can the audience or the listeners find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn for sure. There's also my email is khall@tabwsc.com. And I think those are the best ways to find me at the Alternative Board of West Suburban Chicago. I'd love to hear from people and give me some feedback. If nothing else, connect. And I'm happy to listen and to provide any advice I can.
I love it. I love it.